Welcome back to First Edition. Well, young Australians are now, according to a poll, so ashamed of themselves and their country that they would rather flee Australia than stay and fight if the need arose. This is what the Institute of Public Affairs Director Daniel Wild has said after undertaking a survey of 1,000 Australians this month. And he joins me live. Just elaborate more on the poll and what this says to you, Daniel. Good morning.
Good morning, Peter. Lovely to be with you. And as you identified, our poll indicated that less than 1/3 of those aged 18 to 24 in Australia would stay and fight if Australia were to be in a similar situation as to what Ukraine is now. And this is a deeply concerning and revealing result. We've seen a lot of inspiring resistance from Ukrainians, but what this poll shows is that it raises questions as to whether Australians would behave in a similar manner. There's a couple of reasons that is driving this result. One is that we've simply taken our way of life and our values for granted for many years and simply assumed that everybody would broadly agree that Australia is a country worth defending. But the second point is also that young Australians are too often presented with a very negative view of our way of life, a very negative view of Australia's culture and history, whether that's in schools, whether that's in universities, whether that's from certain sections of the media and especially the public broadcaster. Australia's history is often portrayed as one of racism, of oppression, and in a very negative way, when in reality, Australia's history is one of making pioneering advancements in freedom, in democracy. We're one of the most tolerant nations in the world. We've had millions of people come here from all over the world to be in a free and prosperous nation such as Australia's. So the issue is that when you're presented with a negative view of our nation, it isn't surprising that so few young Australians are now willing to defend it.
So maybe, though, when push came to shove and we were faced with a more immediate threat, even though we've got one right now with China, maybe more would actually commit and fight.
Look, that's certainly possible, Peter, but it would be better to see higher responses in anticipation of any potential threat. What we're seeing is an escalation of conflict in Europe, rising hostility and uncertainty in the Asia-Pacific region. And what we know is that the education curriculum being taught in our schools, it doesn't give us much hope that Australians would respond in much of a different way. And I think this is the product of years of neglect in our education system, of failing to teach Australians the true story of Australia's history. And there are real consequences. I mean, we have to have a balanced assessment. It's not just one or the other. And Australia is certainly not without fault. All nations have fault, but Australia is overwhelmingly a positive story, a nation worth defending, and we need to make sure that young Australians are receiving that message.